Hey, welcome back to Total Disruption. I am Dr. Jake Clendenning, and on behalf of the Michael Laversi, we are so excited to have the Yagers with us today. Debra and Brandon Yager, creators of Yager Training. They do so many cool things, and of course, I say that because they do a lot of what I do. So I love that you guys are NLP. You guys are, I mean, you do so many of the cool things for just the betterment of others, which we absolutely love. And I want to, you guys were telling me, we were talking before, you just got back from a trip to Egypt, and I want to dig into that a little bit more about what's going on with that. And I'm sure that's probably what the audience wants to hear about too. But let's talk about you guys. Tell me a little bit about you and what prompted you to fire up Yager Training.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us on. We're really honored to be here. So we met in personal growth. So that it was a beginning of a love story. A little bit about me is back in 2011, I was at rock bottom. And some of your listeners have probably experienced this in either one area of life or they've experienced in all areas of life. And by the way, I always say, if you've had that, it's actually gold because there's always a gift within the garbage. It just doesn't feel that way at the time. And I was in a career that was completely wrong for me. And some of your listeners may feel this way right now. They feel trapped. And so every single day that I got up to go to work, I felt like a piece of my soul was dying. I was in really abusive relationships. And this is interesting because NLP is all about the power of language. I was casting spells saying that I was a loser magnet, and I kept attracting the same guy. I would move from town to town, to state, and I didn't understand why I kept attracting the same pattern. Little did I know that I was only attracting what I felt it was worth inside. And for over 16 years, I was a drug addict. I believed I was. And so I act the part, whether it be food, sex, drugs, alcohol, anything that I could get my hands on. I was trying to numb this feeling brokenness inside. And so I hit rock bottom and I wound up in NLP. And then a year later, I found this beautiful man and I starting my life over and really starting to take my power back.
I find it hilarious, and I'm going to get to you, man. But I want to touch on a couple of things that Deborah said there. I don't want to breeze past
Most
them.
people want to talk to her more, so I'm totally fine.
Oh no, we're gonna get there. But she dropped some nuggets really quickly, and I want to make sure that we go back and we talk about those. Like, I hear it all the time, and I've said it too, right? And I'm going to back into this whole thing to where you said I hit rock bottom and I ended up in NLP. I found myself there. And how many of us have said that? Like I wasn't at rock bottom, but I was at a place in my business that somebody said, you're going to go. And like almost at gunpoint, I'm not kidding, forced me to go and sit through the first, 4 12-hour days. And I was grumble and just, but within 15 minutes of being there, and that's just my experience, right? 15 minutes of being there, I was like, I need to be here. This is the greatest place. And it was funny. And I made the comment well after of, it was like living in a house my whole life and suddenly looking over and going, there's a door. Where's this door go? And there's like a whole nother level to the house that I had no idea was there. And Deborah made the comment of, she was this limiting belief, this self-applied label that she was putting on herself. I'm a loser magnet. Well, the little squishy thing in the back of your head does exactly what you tell it to do. And so that's what she was attracting. And the other one was, there's always a gift in the garbage. Like I couldn't write that down fast enough. I was like, I want to put it on the banner and put it everywhere because it's so true. So absolutely true. And I love those. I wanted to point those out. So, and we're going to keep going on.
And one little thing as well. And I truly believe, I believe, like God has a path, Spirit has a path. And I truly believed I needed to walk that path in order for me to find him and the work we do now. And the career I was telling you about, I was a stripper and a sex worker. And I wasn't doing that because I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be on a stripper pole. No, I was doing it because I thought I was stupid and I was too broken to do anything else. And so when I met this man, he was the first person, because I automatically assumed that he was way better for me, and I even tried to push him away. And he was the first person that I told the truth to in a very long time, and he didn't judge me. And so I just want to kick that over to him because he held space for a complete mess. I would be dead if it wasn't for us meeting and us, doing this work together, because I was on a path off the hill and down the into the valley. And so you are my beautiful partner that held space for many years of transformation and change.
I found her story fascinating because I didn't have that background, and so I learned a lot. And when we first met, she just dumped her bucket out, right? So that's how that unfolded. When I was 11, my dad got fired from the corporate world. And about then, my grandfather, beautiful man, my mom's dad, mentored my older brother and I, got us into business. We were listening to Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Tom Hopkins, all the guys, all the greats, right? And so I saw that and I realized I wanted to be nothing like my father. PhD, master's, brilliant man, scientist. We come from a background of farmers, Kansas, East Coast. And if that's what the corporate world does to someone, I want nothing to do with it. So I got into real estate at 18 years old, right out of high school, and just started my real estate brokerage in California. Built that company to a statewide brokerage, and then basically found NLP because of my own limitations, limiting beliefs around. I'm not good at managing people. I can make a lot of money, but I can't keep any of it. Wasting time. I need to be a better time manager. All the things that were in my head holding me back from hitting the kind of success I wanted to. And that's when we met in an NLP training in Las Vegas, believe it or not, when I was living in California in 2013. So we've been doing this work, going on 12 years together. Mm-hmm. And it massively shifted my real estate company as far as a leader goes, as a broker. The sales language. I think the biggest thing that I really am proud of is that I didn't go to college, and I've mastered language in a way that has helped a lot of people. That I think college, from my perspective, it's a system, right? And it may not be teaching us everything we need to be successful. And that's something my grandfather taught us at a young age. He said, Brandon, whether you choose to go to college or not, we've come from a family of background of college and university. And, college alone won't be enough to be ultimately successful, as a business owner and entrepreneur. And my grandfather he very much saw the future there for us. So I'm super grateful that I had that kind of mentorship early on in my life.
Right. Man, do I agree with that? Everybody knows I have opinions about structured education. I mean, we've all been on that before. And yet you make a brilliant point that college is great, but college alone may not be enough to push down that success. And we see it all the time. I see it with the clients that I coach, absolutely march down that road. Like I was giggling. You guys were kind of laughing as Brandon was talking about it, because he's giving the list. It is a normal list. Like, where does this list live on a billboard that we all just go, okay, I'm going to write that down and I'm going to say it exactly that way. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. And they're all these wicked limiting beliefs that we just lay on ourselves. And my first book that I wrote about a label that was put upon me when I was a kid. And we've worked through that in NLP. You guys have marched down this road. You've done the journey down the timeline. You've done all this stuff. And so I got all the way back to third grade along this, to where the first true negative label that lived, and I owned it. I planted it. I absolutely nurtured that seed, and I raised that tree for 25 years that I marched down that road with it. And I didn't have to. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to, but it took 25 years. And then it took NLP for me to go, that's not mine to carry. No, that is not my baggage to carry. It's not, I can cut that tree down. And that's where my journey started. And that's where I went back to school after the fact. And now I've got the PhD stuff. I didn't do that for anybody else. I did that for me, because somebody said I couldn't at one point in my life. And I said, yeah, I can. So that's where I started to march with that. But I love the fact that you guys found each other at NLP, in that space. And so many, it's amazing to me at this point that I hear still people are like, well, that's just all woo-woo stuff. Well, you're the guy that needs to go, because I used to believe that too. I used to say the same thing, but it's language, like you said, and let's unpack that a little bit, right? We started picking on limiting beliefs a little bit in the stories that we tell ourselves and the things that we make believe to be true, the glass ceiling, the wall, take your pick. Let's unpack that a little bit, because there's so much of how we communicate with ourselves, as well as how we are communicating as a leader to people around us. And this is where us as coaches, and the things that we're doing it's a completely different space, and it's wildly simple. That's the amazing part to me, is it is wildly simple, and yet we as human beings we've been trained to go a different way, to think differently about ourselves. So what are you guys seeing right now? I mean, you have your journey, and it's easy for us. Like, this is super easy for us. We get it. And you could say we're on the inside. Sure. We understand NLP, we understand that perspective, but there's so many other people that don't get it. Like, they haven't been to the training. They don't understand what we're talking about. So, like, unpack something for the audience of what we're kind of picking on here.
Sure. Well, something we're seeing a lot in our high performance clients that they're already pretty successful, is the things that worked 5, 6, 7 years ago are not working today. Mm-hmm. And something that's fascinating is, for many of them, they haven't changed their communication. They haven't up-leveled their ability to communicate more effectively without the emotion, without the anger, the explosive kind of emotional outburst that a lot of times the pressure is on business owners to perform right now. So that's something that we've really seen, is they're focused on what they don't want, and then they're surprised when they get it.
And they speak it out into existence.
And we're casting spells of everything we don't want. And then yet again, we're getting angry and upset and throwing things.
Because we're getting it.
For some of our clients, when we get it.
I mean, a perfect example is that, I used to cast a spell that I would attract all the wrong men. I also told myself the story that I was stupid. I also told myself that I was an addict. I had an identity around not being good enough. I also had an identity. I've been labeled with bipolar and generalized anxiety. And I said everything, like, I'm afraid of everything. And so poof, your body will respond to what you're saying, and then you'll start attracting it into the universe, because the universe is reflecting back. This is quantum physics. Whatever you focus on and you cast out in frequency and vibration, that's what the sound of words are, is frequency and vibration. And feeling a heightened emotion with it is going to draw in those circumstances to then create your world. And we joke around in NLP, most people describe their world, but they don't realize that they're co-creating the world they live in through the power of the spoken word and an elevated emotion.
Language determines where in the world you live, based on how you speak, right? And we know tonality is 38% of communication. And some of us have a tough time realizing that people are highly auditorial, right? And so I would say some of the biggest things like that we're noticing right now in business is just the scarcity. People are scarce with their language.
There's fear porn everywhere.
There's a lot of fear,
right?
A lot of fear. People,
and that's by design. Right?
Yes, it is.
That's probably
never argue with you on that one.
It's probably the biggest program that people need to realize is there's a program of keeping people, complacent and just fear. And thinking small. The reality is like, if we can feed them the basic unconscious language, I call it, then people will play small. And unfortunately, you can also control people that play small and think and communicate in that way. And you get them to buy things they don't necessarily need that's going to better their life.
Well, and you can provide a solution, because if you keep people in victim consciousness, then whatever the solution is, whether government funding or pharmaceutical, whatever the construct, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of that. And it's like there's a problem, then there is, a reaction, and then there's a solution. And there's massive hypnosis being used to disenfranchise people. And people will talk to us all the time, it's pseudoscience and all that stuff. Well, I think the reason why there is propaganda around NLP being pseudoscience is because you cannot be hypnotized if you understand language. You cannot be hypnotized if you understand hypnosis.
You're sovereign in you're a sovereign being. You're a sovereign being with your choices, your thoughts.
And you can critically think.
And your emotions, if you're totally aware of everything going on. And unfortunately, that's our mission, is truly to empower people, to wake them up to how powerful it is to speak at a completely new frequency, because it's resonance. We just got back from Egypt, and this Djed Pillar, this is the Osiris Djed Pillar.
Like the Tesla
it's a Tesla coil, but it's a metaphor for his backbone. And Isis, his wife, she put him back together and remembered him,
taking all the pieces and putting it together. And I feel like right now everybody's very siloed, and they're focusing on the pieces that are in conflict versus we are all one as humanity. We all bleed red, and that together with the right mindset and the right belief systems, we can create anything. So we look at the future as being very beautiful. And I do believe that people are waking up.
I think we're on the verge of some very peaceful times. And I think it's allowing the systems, it's all about frequency, resonance, and energy. And the thing I took away this last time that we went to Egypt, we were also there in April, May. We can't get enough of it. It's the frequency we're giving off. Frequency is sound, right? Our words mean things. And this is where people, if you want to change your life so quickly, dive into language, because you can't cast spells of abundance and not get it. If you cast spells of negativity and scarcity and poverty, you will get it. And it's a matter of what are you casting and what are you putting out there?
I totally agree with you. And you can look, it's easy to go down the rabbit hole here. So I'm trying to pick my words very carefully on this one. There's the Pareto principle. You guys know the Pareto's principle, right? The 80-20 rule. And you can look at that from a who's successful, air quotes, mind you, because everybody's version of success looks different. Versions of wealth look different. Versions of happy look different. However, there's only going to be 20% of the people that actually are and have gotten there. And the reason they have mastered this right here, that language, the frequency. We talk about this. One of my favorite coaching tools is affirmations. I love affirmations because guess what? Deborah used to very clearly affirm who she was, and she had that identity she affirmed. And this is what I want people to hear now, because they've clearly heard what you used to tell yourself. I want the audience to hear what you tell yourself now. What's your identity now?
So anytime, and this is something really fascinating, because I truly believe that we're in the part of human 10.0. I've noticed that things are manifesting faster. And so cleaning up your language is really not that difficult, right? So all you got to do is anytime you hear yourself, and by the way, I did this and I would not recommend it to anybody that I haven't done myself, is take around a journal and do it for 30 days or even 10 days. It's going to bring so much awareness, and make a commitment to yourself that anytime you hear a negative thought, anytime you say something negative, you write it down. What do you want instead twice? And you speak it out loud. And so when you speak it out loud and you tell your unconscious mind or your subconscious mind and the universe and God, this is what I want. This is what I'm calling in. All of a sudden it becomes a part of you and becomes habitual. And you start reframing yourself. It's the simplest little phrase. What do I want instead? And just make sure that you're saying it in a positive way, because our mind doesn't process the negative directly. What we mean by that is that, if I said to you, don't think of a purple elephant, most likely you're making a picture in your mind of what we just said, a purple elephant. But I said, don't. And so the mind cannot process a negative directly. You can't think about what you don't want to think about without first thinking about it, right?
Think about that.
So
that's going to be a nice soundbite. I love that.
So in order to make sense of the negation, you first have to think about it in your mind and then say, I want something instead. And so when you say it instead, then you want a whole body feel what it is, and making sure that what we call towards language, you're painting the picture of every detail of what you want.
Yep. So here's my +1 to what Deborah's saying on that one. When you change the language and you write it down, write it in present tense. Don't write the I want to. Because when you're writing in I want to, your brain hears lack. I don't have that. It's still stuck in that spot. So write it down, then say it in present tense. And I'll give you the example of what I mean by that. Instead of, so if you get up in the morning, you say, I'm in a bad mood, right? People have done that. Guess what? How's the rest of your day go? It goes like crap. So the first thing you have to do is you have to switch, but you wouldn't say, I want to be happy, because that implies lack. You simply go to present tense and you say, I am happy.
Right.
Yep. It is simple, guy. Like Deborah said, one challenge I want to bring on that one is when we say it's not hard, it is hard. It's simple. Change is a challenge. Change takes work. Change takes choice. It's a decision that you have to do it. And you guys have briefly touched on this, one of my favorite things of NLP is presuppositions. And the one is that every single person has everything available to them that they need to do anything that they want to do. And that's a tough one for some people to get behind. And you'll see that they'll come up with every conceivable excuse, air quotes, of why they can't. They'll hunt for it. It's not true.
Yeah.
Every single person has available to them every single thing they need to do whatever they want to do. They just have to choose to do it. And
Yeah.
that's the truth of this in this language model that you guys are unpacking. And this is a cornerstone of my universe and what I do. Brandon briefly, super fast, talked about the VACOG, which is our modalities, how we learn, how we respond, how we communicate. And there's some brilliant works around this that have occurred out there, and I've spent a lot of time in this as well. I don't know which NLP class you guys took, but there's a piece that talks about how much information. Like right now, I'm having a completely different experience than Deborah's having, and Deborah's having a different experience than Brandon is having. And from the directive that at any given moment, there are 4 million bits of information hitting you all at once, just barraging you all over the place. I don't know who figured that out. That's a lot of work, but it's 4 million. The human brain can only take 140 out of the 4 million. So it's not possible for me to be having the same experience as Deborah. She's going to be warmer or colder than I am. She's going to hear differently. We're facing each other in a different way. So just from that in a concept of communication, and we've all heard it walking out of a movie. You walk out and you're like, I loved it. That was fantastic. And the guy behind you is like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
You were in the same theater, same movie,
Right.
different experiences. So understanding that as part of the communication model. And I want to back up way back to the beginning where Brandon said something when Deborah first dumped her bucket on him. He said, I found it fascinating, which tells me he came from curiosity. Deborah said she did not feel judged in any way to unpack with him. He came from curiosity. Think about the diversity. Think about the dynamic that would have had to occur in that moment between those two for Brandon to just absolutely have no judgment whatsoever about the past and just, man, tell me your story. I want to know more about that. And how absolutely freeing that is for the other person. Like, it's a beautiful story, guys. I adore it. I really do, because it demonstrates what NLP is all about. Like, that is clear demonstration of I am open to it. I am open to the conversation. I'm open to know this other person for the purpose of knowing the person.
Thank you, Jed.
Absolutely love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So good. So what's going on with Yager Training? Let's spend a few minutes in, how do people get a hold of you? What's coming up? You guys are doing retreats. There's all kinds of stuff going on with you guys.
Yes. So everybody can pop over to our website, yagertraining.com, because that's where we have all of our events that are coming up. We have an amazing event called the Vision Alchemy, and we take people through the practitioner level of NLP in a lot of ways, and then help people go back on their timeline and clear out everything that's holding them back from having 100% certainty of their life. I think because there is so much stuff going on in the world, obviously there's so much chaos, people are choosing not to set the goal or plan or dream big or do that quantum leap because they're uncertain of their certainty. And so what we're going to be doing is help cast that vision for whatever their soul's journey is, and then really go get the gift within the garbage from the past that's going to help them catapult into the future of what they want. We also have, for entrepreneurs in the room, we have the business alchemy, where we help people with the process of conscious selling. I think this is another conversation for another time, but one of the dirtiest words, too, in business is money and sales. It's fascinating to me that, and it's actually my own personal story, is that sales was something that was so awful and so terrible because I was so afraid of looking manipulative and, all about the money or whatever, because I had been burned in the past. And so this is getting in the way of people sharing their gift with the world. And it's actually rude if you have something to help somebody with and you're not sharing and educate them about it because of perhaps you have something that's been, hurt from the past around sales. And so we help people break down the construct around that and really dive in with neurolinguistic programming in a conscious way to facilitate change for people to commit to themselves, whatever that is. And then we have certifications. And then we also have our traveling retreats, one of which is going to be in Egypt in 2026. So It's a lot of fun.
Right. We can find that on the website. So it's Yager Training, Yager training.com. Check out Debra and Brandon on Yager Training. Guys, I'd love to have you back on the show again. There's so much more to unpack, as we well know, but you get that absolutely awesome. So grateful for you guys today. What's one last thing you want to leave the audience with today? Give them a good word.
I think the distortions of what people are really looking for, there's such a distortion of what people think they need is really not what they need. That seems to be a pretty big one right now with I think comfort zones and people really pushing themselves and stretching themselves out of these comfort zones. That's something that we love to do. It just builds resilience. It builds strength. And most importantly, right now, I think we've got to be solid light workers for the people that are so stuck in just misery and pain. And we want to be that guiding light. And so,
and I want everybody to know the pain is temporary.
It is temporary.
I also want to know that you're so much more than you think you are. And if I look back at my past and people would, if somebody said you could have the life that I'm living now, I would tell them that they're insane. And I just want you to know what I'm living right now is a tube of what's capable for us. And so it's always growing and it's always transforming. And I believe everybody can have a life that they dream of. So if they're willing to get out of their comfort zone and let go of their stuff and take an NLP course or do some coaching with you.
Absolutely. Debra, Brandon, I am grateful for the both of you today. And I'm just grateful for your story. I'm grateful for your journey. I'm grateful for that you're so forthcoming and honest with everybody. You guys have got a beautiful story, and I hope the audience connects with you guys. We'll do our best, and we'd love to have you connect with us again. On behalf of the Michael Labersi, Debra and Brandon Yager, I am Dr. Jake Clendenning. It is your turn to disrupt.